Welcome to the Art Lady's home. I have been craving corn chowder forever, and finally I got my stuff together and I'm going to make it today, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. It's going to be a vegetable-based corn chowder, of course with more corn in it, and it's going to be also dairy-free. So I'm going to be using that silk coconut milk, but let me just show you what the produce are that I'm going to be throwing in here. Lots of corn, of course, fresh corn on the cob. You can also use frozen if you want, or canned. I just happen to get the fresh because it's in the farmer's market now. I'm going to throw in some onions, potatoes, some celery, carrots. I'm going to use a little bit, not the whole head, of cauliflower. Of course, lots of garlic. I'm going to throw in some beans so that it's an actual complete meal with protein, since we're not using a lot of the dairy. So that'll help make increase the grams of protein that we need. Then here's my salts and peppers and seasonings. I'm going to use parsley. If you have fresh parsley, that's great. I'm going to use ground thyme, pepper, and I like the pink Himalayan salt crystals, and throw in some cayenne pepper as well. So let me get chopping. I'm going to chop up everything. I'll show you what it's all going to look like, and then I'm going to throw it in the pan and let it simmer a half a day. And it's going to be delicious. I can't wait. The first two vegetables that I prepared were the carrots and celery. And what I did was I washed them up in this sink here. I just sit in front of my sink and wash and prepare all the vegetables at the same time, and it's faster that way. Then what I did was I chopped them up, and I put them into about an inch of simmering water here. So I did 5 carrots total and a half a pack of celery. I want that to flavor that soup. I diced up some of the celery, you can see here, in probably 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch chunks. And I did that about the same for the carrots, but then I diced real small with a chopper the remaining celery. So just a few stalks if you want it chunky. Otherwise, just dice it all up small. My son really doesn't care for that fibrous part of the celery, so we dice up most of it real small just so it gives flavor to the soup. But I did that, and here's the chopper. I just used a simple handheld chopper here. I barely, what I call barely, peel the carrots. My carrots were pretty clean, even though they were organic. They were pretty clean on the outside. So I only take off the parts of the skin that are a little bit yucky looking or dirty or not appealing. Most of the carrots were beautiful though. I didn't have to peel much. So you can see in the skins here, it's barely, that's why I call it a barely peel. I only peel the areas that I need to. I want to keep most of the natural skins on the carrots for the extra vitamins and minerals that the outside skins provide. So we're trying to, our goal is to try and be as nutritious as we can. I'm just a little germophobic, and I don't like looking at that darker part, even though I've scrubbed the carrots. You see what I mean here? That kind of junk in the peels. So that's what I did. Now, my theory is cook the vegetables that are the hardest first, or you want to be tender first. So I do carrots and onions first. I mean carrots and celery first. Now on the chopping block is potatoes. And I'm going to do 3, my potatoes were really small, so I started out with 3 of the white potatoes. Then I ended up with another one. It wasn't in too good of a condition. So I am going to throw in some of these little tiny new potatoes as well. I want this to be kind of a creamy, potatoey feel as well as corn. So like I said, it's going to be a lot of vegetables in here. So that's on the chopping block next. So I'm going to go ahead and chop those up, put those in the pot, and then I'm going to show you my lineup for the next vegetables that will go in the pot. Next, I will chop up the cauliflower really, really fine, put that in. I'm going to take the corn off the cob. You could just throw them right in, but some of this corn wasn't in great shape, as you can see in the back here maybe. I got it from the farmer's market, so we weren't that rocking on the corn. So I'm going to take it off the cobs. That way, just in case there's anything inside those cobs, I'm not putting it in my soup. So I'm going to cut it off. And then I'm going to put all that in, and then the last two vegetables that I'll dice up and put in are the onions, and then I do have some zucchini. And I go from hard to soft as I'm putting it in, as I'm dicing it up. So it's actually cooking while I'm still cutting, which saves me a lot of time. So that's my lineup, and I'm gonna chop up everything fine, put that in. I'm gonna leave about a 1/4-inch chunks of the zucchini because they kind of are they're a soft vegetable. But the onions I'm gonna do super fine. The potatoes I'll leave in 1/4-inch, 1/2-inch chunks. I'll take off the corn off the cob, and then cauliflower is gonna be real fine grate, like a cauliflower rice texture. So that's what I'm gonna be doing now, and then I'll let you know what it looks like from there. What I did was I finished chopping up everything. I ended up using 1 less onion, so I did 2 of the really giant onions. And you can see it's pretty thick with the vegetables. I finely chopped the cauliflower. Let's see if you can see. It's almost like the cauliflower rice texture. It's just real fine. And then the onions are real fine as well. This is cauliflower, you can see. This is zucchini, which is about a 1/4-inch to a 1/2-inch chunks of your zucchini, just so that you know the size that I did. Again, it's up to you and your preference of how you like your size. I still have that little bit of water that's simmering because my vegetables are going to make more of the juice as this condenses down. So I don't want it to be real runny. As it is, I've already have quite a bit of juice from the vegetables as they've started to cook. So it's looking good, smelling good. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some herbs to this. And you can adjust your herbs that you like. This is a gigantic pot. This is, I can tell you with quick measuring here, this pot is 12 inches on the inside round. So we've got 12 inches in diameter. So it's a pretty giant pot, just so that you can measure to go by what you have, and it's 6 inches high. This is cast iron, so I'm cooking it at a low temperature. I have it set on a 2, which is a very low temperature on my stove. It's like a low simmer. And now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of parsley to this. I really like the colors that's happening in this soup so far, you know, being an artist and an art teacher. That's why I added more of the carrots. I like that even disbursement of that orange throughout, and it's looking good. That was 5 stalks of carrot, 5 carrots actually. So I love that color. That gives great color. The parsley is already giving it some beautiful color. Now, and then the little bits of zucchini too. I left the skins on the zucchini. I just picked off anything that looked gross, or cut it off, any bad spots. So we've got a little chunks of the green coming through. So we've got it's a pretty colorful summer vegetable pot here going. So now I'm going to add in the rest of the seasonings. Now, I've learned through mistakes that are costly because you end up ruining a whole pot of stuff. Salt, pepper, lightly on any seasoning that's strong. Parsley's pretty mild, that's why I did 2 tablespoons. I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon right now of salt because I don't really want too much salt going on here. And later I can always add more to it, but I don't want to ruin that pot. Same thing with cracked pepper. To start, I'm going to do this, and then once the pot is done, then I'll add more. I'm going to go a 1/2 teaspoon of this cracked pepper right now too in here. Flavors that are strong, like I said, cayenne pepper, can't think of the name of it. Cayenne pepper, I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4, not even a 1/4 teaspoon, just a super small bit. I don't want this to be strong in this flavor. That's not what I'm looking for. Just a little bit dab more. Just a little sprinkles more. Just a sprinkle on the top. This we can adjust later, but I want to have this embedded into the vegetables as it's cooking right now. A little bit of it. My recipe was going to be a 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm going to slowly adjust, because every time I make this pot of soup, difference in the vegetables, you know, the amount of vegetables vary depending on the sizes. And this is a pretty big pot today. That little bit of cayenne won't do too much to it. Oh, I did see a little potato speckle. I'm really anal about junk like that, so I'm going to pick that out. Okay, so now I'm doing some thyme, and this is ground thyme. So it's going to be strong too. So I'm going to do under a 1/4 teaspoon of that. And I will adjust it later on. Like I said, I've learned my lesson on like thyme and rosemary. That, especially when it's ground and powdered, that sometimes it's overbearing. So that's all I'm going to do for now. And then we'll adjust it later as we taste. I really want the natural flavors of the vegetables to come through in this chowder and not have a lot of my added flavors or seasonings. So there it is. Now I did do a heaping tablespoon of garlic. I ran my garlic through a garlic press, and so I have this really fine chopped garlic, and actually that's close to 2. Let me measure. No, that's a tablespoon, and a little bit left, and a little extra. I'll just do the scrapings because I love garlic. And for me, I can't get enough garlic. I can't overdo on the garlic. Okay, so I'm going to simmer that up. And then I'm going to add right now a little bit of my coconut milk. Like I said, I don't want this to be too runny, so I'm going to add about 2 cups right now of the coconut milk to this and let this simmer for now. The chowder's been simmering for about an hour and a half. What I did was I took out about 3 cups of the liquid, and I blended it in the blender so it was super fine, liquefied all of it, and then I added it to this, and it made it a nice thick chowder base, so it's not so runny. Then I also added more of the black pepper, about a 1/2 teaspoon more, 1/4 to a 1/2 teaspoon more. Added about a 1/4 more teaspoon of salt. Added another tablespoon of parsley flakes, and another 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. The pot was so huge that my seasonings were real small in the beginning, very weak. So I knew that. I just don't like to overdo. Like I said, I've already ruined many things by overdoing my seasonings. Then I also added a tablespoon of this Better Than Bouillon base, and it gives it a more in-depth or deeper flavor. It just adds a really delicious flavor to this. And I use it a lot in my soups. It's 100% natural, and it's all organic. Or you can use another bouillon or vegetable bouillon, but I prefer this. It's not as salted. But that's what I've done so far, and I'm going to also open up a can of these beans and throw them in, just to give it more of a hearty, more protein to it. And here is the finished soup. You can see I have some bay leaves that are still floating in. I added 3 of them for flavor while it was cooking. I did forget to mention that. And then what I just did was I just added a few tablespoons of flour just to thicken it up to serve it. And I did sprinkle some sugar in because I like mine a little bit sweet. And I did go heavy on the spices, so I wanted it to be a little bit sweeter. So I did put a few teaspoons of sugar in. So taste it, see what you think, and then add what you need. Like I said, I did do a few tablespoons to thicken this up, and this is a real thick soup here. The total coconut milk that I did add to this was 3 cups of coconut milk. And then basically the rest is just the juices from the vegetables. The starting liquid was only about a half inch to an inch at the bottom. And the rest is just all juice from the natural vegetables. So it has a nice, delicious flavor to it. You can see here when it's served in the bowl, it is pretty thick. So it's a nice, thick soup, and we're serving it with oyster crackers for our complete meal.